Spartan Nation, what's going on? Ken, the super cool Spartan, my brother Brian, the super mad Spartan. Cue the woodshed here, the sweet 16 edition or the sour 16 edition here of Cue the Woodshed. All the Spartan Nation is mad, sad, whatever you want to call it. Had that loss to UConn last night and definitely hurts. What can I say? The fighting Spartans, the fighting Izzos, they did their best to make it a game. But in the end, it didn't happen, and we went packing going home. So as we do all the time here on the podcast, when we win, we come on here. When we lose, we come on here. So we're going to keep up that trend. We're not hiding from anybody. We're not ducking from anybody. When we dish it out, we dish it out. When we take it, we can take it. So here we are. So having said that, broski, let's just get right into it here. And we'll just kind of break it down a little bit here. We're not going to do what all of the talking heads do. As far as, Michigan State went for 54%, and 3 for 8 this time of the game and all that stuff here. We're just going to use the good old eye test, no analytics, anything like that. So what was your overall thoughts of the game? Let's just start there, Brian.
What were your overall thoughts brought up,
from start to finish, and we'll go from there. Yeah, we can bring up a few stats for sure. But, yeah, we're not going to be all like Jay Billis on here. But what you think? What are your thoughts? We text back and forth here watching the game.
Biggest takeaway? Just another game, a bad start. And it seems that happens a few times this year. State digs themselves a hole, and they spend the whole game trying to get out of it. I don't think shout out to UConn. I'm not saying they're terrible. I just don't think they're that much better than us. That's why the Vegas line was like a 1.5 point underdog for Michigan State. But I think it was a winnable game. This felt a lot like the game we played. We played Michigan earlier this year, the first time at Breslin. And just the teams comes out looking like they've never played basketball before. A lot of turnovers, missing layups. Defense looks discombobulated. And for the first, basically the 10 minutes of the game, State played like shit. And they were down by 19, and then they come back in the pool with like 7 at halftime, which is like, it just leaves me feeling the rest of the game. If we just didn't go through that 19-point down, almost getting blown out and embarrassed, do we win this game? Because at the end, the same thing with Michigan. You could tell Jimmy Fears had no legs. He had no lift on the shot. He hit that 3-pointer, but he missed his few shots before that. He was like 5 for 15. Fears had a great assist record in the tournament. His shooting, not good in all 3 games.
And
so you combine that, I think he had 4 turnovers and I think like 7 assists. I'll bring up the actual stats. Yeah, 4 turnovers and 7 assists. That's not the level of play we needed from him in this game.
Yeah, I concur with you on that. And I was very surprised that MSU came out the way they did, because I was like, wow, they hadn't scored like almost 10 damn minutes of the game. I mean, they started out hot, but then they went through this like 9-10 minute slump of just not scoring. And UConn was lighting it up from 3-pointers, and that kid Reed, I mean, he was looking like JD from the Pistons in the paint. Jaden Duran in the paint, just
Yeah, it's like
knocking Kohler
it's
off
like
the
they
way,
haven't seen him
knocking Cooper
before.
off the
He was
way.
at Michigan for like 2 years. They've played against him
Yes,
before.
they
That's
have.
it was before. Like you have seen him before. Kasha Cooper, you've seen him before. Jackson Cole, you've seen this guy before. And then the Achilles heel all year showed up. The two guard position couldn't guard anybody,
Yeah.
couldn't score. I
Yeah.
mean, I know I said I want to bring up a few stats because that they had to be talked about, right? You have a combined from the two guard position 4 for 12. He's 25% shooting from the two guard position for a total of 11 points from three people.
Wow. Now that
It's
that
not
I
going to get
did
it
not
done.
know. I did not know that from that
No,
position.
I know. You were talking about we're not going to
Wow.
do the stats. I was like, well, I'm sorry to poo poo your opening. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to bring up some stats because they got to get talked about, right? The things that lost state games all year lost in this game versus UConn. Slow starts. Jimmy Fears can't play godly and have a 20 point, 15 assist game. He had a regular, not pedestrian by any means. I think like 13 points and 7 assists, but you're not getting anything else when you're down. It's hard to win these games,
True.
and so they come out. I, I'm a big Jordan Scott fan. I think he's gonna have a bright career. He's been having some struggles the last like month.
Yeah.
He kind of had a coming out party versus Illinois. Guarded Wagler really good Wagler or Wagler. I would say his name Wagler. He's really good player for Illinois. I'm sorry if I
Yeah, I know
mispronounced
you're
his name,
talking
but
about
ever since then it's
Keaton
been an
Wagner, I
up
think
and
his name
down
is.
roller coaster with Jordan Scott. And so, and then Trey Fort was playing like Trey Fort we've seen the majority of the year. Couldn't guard anybody. He missed a um a a defensive position. He comes down, misses a three, and then lets somebody blow by him and get up for another three. Izzo yanks him out the game. And that's like, yeah, that's his story. Kurtang, 20 minutes, a donut.
Yeah.
It's just he does not getting enough. You talked about it many times. You need elite guard play to get far in the tournament for the most part. We have not we didn't get elite guard play in this game and we really needed it.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
even not scoring wise, definitely on the defensive wise, that Michigan State was getting shredded in that first 10 minutes to the point where when we start getting down like that, I'm superstitious. So I turn the game off. Like maybe I'm the bad luck. Maybe I don't need to watch. And I'll just check on the score cadence. They come back and I'll turn the game back on. Because I'm not type of crazy fan. I admit it. Yes, it's just bad, just embarrassing 10
Yeah,
minutes,
it was awful.
and that cost them the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that was my worry
And
too as I was watching the game.
texting back and forth. We are killing them. We are missing our shots and getting the rebounds, and then missing more shots. Just layup, oh, can't do it. Open jumper, no. Layup, no, can't do it. Oh, knock the ball out of bounds, go another way. I'm like, my goodness, guys, we're beating ourselves more than UConn's beating us. At a minimum, we shouldn't have been down 19 points.
Oh no, not at all. Nah, that should not
And
have
then
happened.
I'll bring this up too. There are some interesting coaching decisions that happen as well. So there's a point where we're bleeding, down 19, and Izzo takes Spears out, and Denham's getting some burn. Fine, understandable. They go to like a timeout, it comes back, there's a break in play, go back, and then I'm still out there. I'm like, hey, we're about to be down 20 plus points. Fear's got to be back on the court. Curious decision. Another curious decision, coaching wise. At the end of the game, we have two timeouts. We have a chance to score and tie the game or take the lead. Normally, Izzo call a timeout and they set up a play. Nope, they went down there and looked very discombobulated and had a horrific offensive possession. And then I believe after that happens, that's when a Caravan hits the 3-pointer that puts out of our misery. There's some curious coaching decisions. I love Izzo and he knows more about basketball. He probably forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. But there's like, okay, I don't understand this. It's not time for funky lineups in the Sweet 16. It's not time to, we can't the timeouts don't roll over until next season. So there's enough blame to go around for the MSU loss. The coaching staff, the players, we didn't have enough. We weren't good enough this year, and that's what it came down to. They didn't play good enough.
So yeah, Brian, I definitely agree with you about some of the interesting lack of timeouts or decisions that Izzo had with timeouts at the end of the game, as well as bringing Wojcik back in. So definitely a head scratcher there. So that was the first half. The second half definitely looked like you said, the first matchup against Michigan at the Breslin, where we come roaring back. I think we go like in a 25-6 run, something to that effect. We actually take the lead. And then from there, it just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until at the end of the game, just didn't have it and we lost. But, I will give Michigan State credit because to Izzo's, success, he did make some adjustments in the second half. I mean, whatever he said at halftime or whatever adjustments were made, they definitely came out like hotcakes. They were pretty much bludgeoning UConn. It was funny seeing Dan Hurley's sideline antics and his looks, that the camera would point to, like and his usual, all of those like, antics he was doing on the sideline and stuff. But down the stretch, it just couldn't pull it out. But, they definitely gave a valiant effort. I definitely liked how, Carson Cooper, responded. He had some great plays, and between him and Kohler, they were really, keeping Reed out the paint, with blocking shots from Cohen Carr. That block shot that he had, jumping over damn near over Reed to block that shot. So there were definitely some highlights
Yeah.
during that 25-2 run or 25-6 run. And it really gave, us Spartan fans that, okay, we coming back. I think we can get this one done. I think we got it. But unfortunately, down the stretch, it was the good old, whoa, L.
Yeah, the people who normally showed up pretty much showed up. State just needed a little bit more. That first half was, put ourselves in a big hole, and the two senior bigs try to get us out of it. Fears did his best attempt. Um, you know, Cohen Carr did Cohen Carr things, being an athlete, getting to the bucket. He didn't make a 3-pointer, but he was aggressive, and he was
Yeah, especially in the paint.
showing off his skills.
He was, yeah, he was like a man amongst
Yeah, I
boys
think
because there were a couple of
just that.
points buckets he had. He was like surrounded by UConn. He just willed his way to get those, those points in the paint. So yeah, Carr definitely looked like a man amongst boys in that paint.
Yeah, it bodes well for next season. If he can keep up the play during the tournament, like he can keep up that level of play that he does in the tournament and do that for, a season, you're looking at an NBA player. He has
Hmm.
NBA athleticism. If he
Oh, for
keeps up his
sure.
defense being tenacious like that, and he can, keep on working on that 3-pointer and bring that percentage up, he's definitely an NBA player. So though,
Oh yeah.
there were so many goods. It just that 19-point lead we let UConn get just couldn't really get over the hump, and
Right.
stay there.
Right.
But the four people, the four core of the team, they showed up after that first 10 minutes, and they really gave Michigan State a shot to win the game.
Hmm.
It it sucks for next season we're losing our bigs because those guys. You couldn't have told me that Cooper and Kohler would have turned into what they turned into this season. I think Cooper is maybe a fringe NBA guy. You're talking about an athletic big who runs, screen and rolls, and he doesn't take a lot of his jump shot, but he has good form. So who knows if he can add to that?
Right.
Uh, we saw a little more of his offensive game near the end of the season. So
Right.
okay, fringe NBA guy, but in the end, State just didn't have enough punch, and it kind of came down to a scenario we brought up, many podcasts ago about late game situations,
Hmm.
and State doesn't really have a go-to scorer. And I
Yeah,
know
not
Jimmy
this
Fierce hit the
year.
big bucket in the game we're talking about, go to overtime. They don't have a guy like, okay, who is your tough bucket getter? Because you're going to need one.
Right.
Who's going to be
Right.
your
No.
guy to
Right.
make the
No
tough
Jace
bucket?
this
Who
year.
could take the bad shot and make it go in? Yeah, we didn't have that. And it's just that's just reality of it. Uh,
Hmm.
we needed that 3-pointer, and Kurtang let it go. I was praying like, please, doink, and
Yeah.
that was the game.
Yeah.
State had the shot. State had a shot. It just didn't have enough, and the flaws that we all feared were too big for the team to overcome. They couldn't overcome them.
Hmm. So as you were talking, Broski, I had two questions that came up in my mind. One, regarding Fear's play, I would say like that last 7 minutes of the game, because he did have uncharacteristically a few turnovers that UConn converted into points. Do you think that was primarily due to him being fatigued, or was he just outplayed, in that particular time period? Because he had some plays where I think one was he was kind of dribbling the ball fancy and stuff, and got his pocket picked, and then that converted to a score, and then another play where he had, I think he was going to the rim, got picked again. I think UConn scored on that. And then there are a few uh, plays where he literally had a walk to the basket and usually makes those layups, but in this game he didn't. Do you think that was due to him being tired, or it's just UConn defense just saying, hey, we can pick your pocket, buddy? Or it's a combination of both. I mean, it could be a combination of both. What are your thoughts on
I
that?
think I would say it's a combination of both, but I'd probably say about
Okay.
30% UConn defense and the rest of the peers being tired. Just one of the plays you're talking
Uh-huh.
about is near the like there's like 2 or 3 minutes left in the game. He comes down and he crosses the guy. And he goes behind his back and just loses the ball. And it's like, well,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not ideal. He doesn't normally do
Unfears
that. That's
like.
something that you haven't really seen from him. And
Right.
yes, and then the missed layups. There are quite a few of those amongst the team because, and I keep going back to that first 10 minutes. Cooper and Kohler had some missed layups early. Fierce
Mm-hmm.
had some missed layups early, and I don't know if that was just
And a missed
nerves.
free
I
throw,
don't
which
know,
is weird.
but near the end of the game, definitely, yeah. But near the end of the game, definitely, I thought he was tired.
Mm-hmm.
He's a human being. He can't go full out, run full bore for 40 minutes and not be affected. Because in the end, there's a couple of jump shots that his jumper has been off and on kind of all year, more on than off,
Mm-hmm.
but they were
True.
short. Like you can see, it just
Right.
hit the front of the rim. Like he pulled up for his little mid range elbow jumper that he could probably get in most games. I think he should use it more honestly. He just was short and he missed it.
Mm-hmm.
He hit that 3-pointer to give us hope at the end. And so it was nice, but before that, just I think it's more so it's tired legs. He's asked to carry the team, and it's hard to do
Yeah.
that and play at that level, full bore for 40 minutes. And he's
True.
been doing it
Yeah.
all year and getting very little backup, the
Yeah.
injury situation and just how things worked out. I feel like it's been a theme for Michigan State. We're always a piece short here and there, and it doesn't really line up. Ah man, if we have this guy one
Mm-hmm.
more year, nope, he's gone. It just is
Yeah.
just what it
The
is.
if Yeah, it
Now
seems
there's a
like the
remedy for
if
that.
cloud hangs over. Yeah, it seems like the if cloud hangs over Izzo quite a bit, because if you go back, and this may be a good transition to talking about, next year's team, that whole conversation I think we had in a couple, few podcasts ago, the old school way of Izzo versus the Captain Kirk way of transfer portal and you know dishing out NIL checks to improve the program. Because really, since Cassius Winston, MSU has really been more down than up per se. I would, because during the AJ Hogard
Yes,
um, Tyson years. My apologies, I can't remember his last name
Walker.
at the moment. Tyson Walker years, thank you. Those 4 years, those really were some really brutal years, to be honest, to watch MSU basketball. I know that they did get to the Sweet
Oh, the
16,
offense
one
was
of
god
those
awful to
years,
watch.
but for the most part, they were a one and done, weekend, first round weekend knockout. And it seemed like Izzo really didn't do his best to really improve that roster. And I think he just kind of, I think, to be honest, those 4 years, he's kind of stubborn in the sense that, he just kind of seemed like he just kept knocking his head, on that wall to really make something happen, with that particular team. And it really didn't come to fruition. I mean, there's just, no, I know he got Tyson Walker, from the transfer portal, but that really didn't translate to really any success until, Fears walked in,
Not
into
how
to
we
the
define
Breslin Center.
success.
Right. I mean, by Michigan State basketball standards, yes. Consistently getting knocked out of the first round, that's not the standard of MSU basketball. And that happened quite a bit
I mean,
under
honestly,
those 4 or 5 years. And then
the
transitioning
standard is Final
to,
Fours, and we haven't been there since 2019.
yeah, I've been there since 2019. Like I said, since Cassius Winston. And I know that the here and now with Fears, starting last year, MSU had a great run. They won the Big Ten outright last year, got to the Elite Eight. And now we're kind of back to the what if game per se. Because we talked about it. Jace Richardson. He was that go-to bucket getter last year. Went to the NBA, which he deserved to. I mean, he was that dude. So I I would have taken my talents to the NBA. First round draft pick. Yeah, go get that money.
For sure, you got to
But
go.
right, but it seemed like, and I could be wrong, but it seemed like, and I guess Izzo didn't account for Trey Holland leaving, but it just seemed like looking at that shooting guard position, it would have been like, maybe could have done maybe something a little more. Just and again, I'm just saying, that what if cloud, at least this season, hung over the team. Last year it did not, but this year it's kind of like, what if this and what if that, and and of course you can't account for injuries. No one thought about Divine, breaking his foot, because I think he was pretty much slated to be the backup, point guard for Fears this year. And Izzo was put in a tough spot, when he broke his foot. So, but yeah, I'm just wondering, in terms of this age of transfer portal and all this stuff here, going into next season, because this was brought up too in some of the articles that I read, with the bigs leaving, if Izzo, and who's coming in this year, if Izzo should be looking at who he can tap in the portal to replace, the Cooper and Kohler, and if he should look at a shooting guard, and what level will Izzo
Yeah.
do to what at how far will Izzo go to solidify those positions? Will he just kind of stick it out with who he has, or will he be like, okay, yeah, you know, I want to get back to the Final Four / I want to win a national championship. I need to do whatever I can to make that happen.
One thing Izzo's not going to do is disrupt team chemistry. So, well, okay, we'll start like this. So he tried to address some of these things in the portal, just not the way we would have liked. He brought in Trey Fort, and it just really didn't work out for most of the season because he was brought in to be a scorer and be a major piece of the team, and it didn't work out. Izzo needed Curtain to take a bigger step than what he took. Didn't work out. And so as a result, we have to take our backup point guard and make them the starting two guard because that was what's best for the team at the moment. And then when Divine goes down, that kind of blows that whole thing up. And I forget that we had another transfer guy who got hurt before the season started, blew his knee, tore his knee, patella, his knee. And so he was supposed
Yeah,
to be a wing.
was it Caleb Glenn or Caleb Nilsson, or I can't remember that kid's name. Chris Solari had
Glenn,
mentioned
Caleb
his
Glenn.
name, so okay, yeah.
It's Glenn, Caleb Glenn. You had it right. And he a wing scorer, like a 40% 3-point shooter. So what does this team look like if you maybe put him at two guard instead?
Mm-hmm.
And so that we have a lot of ifs for this season. In terms of next season, Izzo's not going to disrupt the chemistry. We've been down this path going on, 4 or 5 years. What Izzo should bring in and what he's going to do. I I don't have hopes for that because anybody can see Michigan State needs a center, and the going rate for a center is a lot of money, and Izzo's not going to disrupt the team chemistry just to for vanity's sake. He goes, Fear's got to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to command a handsome NIL number. And to be clear, State has money to pay their players. Everybody on Michigan State is getting paid well, as they should be. Fears is going to demand a
Mm-hmm.
lot, as he should. Um, we're going to get more for Carr. I think he's shown a lot of growth playing for Izzo. And then everybody else, we'll see how it goes. But definitely we're going to need to bring in a center. And I wanted I would say we need a center, and I would definitely try to bring in another shooting guard because, all right, Trey Ford is gone. Then you're left with basically Kurtang and a freshman. We don't know what junior year Kurtang is going to look like. A freshman is a freshman, so you don't know what that's going to be at the end of the year where you need them to be like, leaning them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Backup point guard, I think we're fine there. We're bringing in Medlock, who's going to get some run and seems like to be the future. We're bringing in a big time center, from recruiting wise, but again, freshman, we don't know what that's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy, that's the only true center on the team. McCullough, who's more of he's a more of a stretch four. And you have Cam Ward, who's kind of
Mm-hmm.
a center, but he's not 7 foot tall. He's an athletic guy, athletic big. He's probably definitely going to be starting, as he should. I think he's shown a lot this year as well. But you're still gonna need another backup center. Somebody's gonna just go out there who wants to rebound, run, dunk, and defend. But those guys are going to cost you a pretty penny in the portal. I don't know if history has shown us anything. That's not going to be the case, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I'm not getting my hopes up to see some big name transfer big come in. I think we'll see another. Was a year before last season. Was Apollo. I'm not saying Apollo was terrible. He served the role, but it's not going to be people that I don't think it's going to be somebody that, oh man, I'm so happy with this guy type center.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to go out and get some big name person in the port. That's just based on the evidence I've seen. If it was me, for sure, you know, it, we understand that what college basketball is now, and I understand Izzo wants to be a steward of men, and he can still do that. But the results are the results. And if there's a
Mm-hmm.
way to fill holes on your team, you should do it within the rules. So
Oh yeah.
that's kind of my, yeah, I think we should, but I don't think we will answer.
So then it begs the question, and again, I'm not an advocate of just going out spending 20-30 million dollars, just to buy yourself basically a national championship, because like you said, you still have to coach these
It doesn't work a
players
whole
and you
lot.
have to have chemistry, and it doesn't work like that. So I'm not an advocate of that, but I am an advocate of, if you're really trying to get that second national championship, and the way that you have been going about it now overall is not resulting in that, then at what point do you say, okay, maybe I just need to shell out a little bit more cash to get someone? And I'm not saying you have to go out to get the number one, transfer center out there is going to cost you buku money. And, now someone's going to just, disrupt the flow and chemistry of the team, of your core team. But I mean, you're going to have to get somebody, that can get you over the hump. And again, Izzo we trust. I
Yeah.
understand
And
that.
I just
But if you haven't been back to the
don't
Final
know.
Four in almost a decade, I mean, it's in almost a decade. I mean, at some point, you're going to have to be like, okay,
Yes.
I have to be the one to make some kind of change to the system and the way that I'm doing things to get that result back. I mean, I just can't keep pounding my head,
Yeah.
and being, super duper stubborn and be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to yeah, I have all these talented freshmen coming in, and I'm gonna mold them my way, and they're gonna get me to where I need to go. I mean, that worked maybe about 10, 15, 20 years ago, but in the NIL era of things, I mean, you got to come up that dough. I mean, at least some, to get an impact player. I'll say a player that is impactful enough to get you to where you want to go, to get you over that hump.
Yeah, because next year the team's core is Fears and Carr.
Right. Yeah, that's
And
it.
that's a good 1-2, but you're gonna need some other guys to step up, some unknowns.
Right.
And I don't
Right.
I haven't State has not won depending solely on freshmen. Now, have freshmen contributed? For
Right.
sure. The time State's going to the Final Four and championship, they've had freshmen that contribute, but they're not the main guys. And so,
Right.
you know, I've always, Fears is going to break the Michigan State record for assists, probably, with a team that is not known for having shooters in his years here so far. Like, who's the best 3-point shooter that Fears has played with, or best scorer of the ball that Fears has played with? I mean, you have to say Jace Richardson, but Jace was more of he got his own buckets.
Right.
Fears became the assist guy this year. And we're looking at the squad like, I'm not saying State wasn't, they're a squad that doesn't take a lot of threes. They weren't like consistent, like they were like horrific at 3-pointers. But they weren't like, hey, you got to fear Michigan State's 3-point shooting. You're like, guys will make it sometimes. Some guys will get hot,
Yeah.
but then there was no one consistent all year. There's not one consistent 3-point shooter for Michigan State this season.
No.
I guess maybe you could say Kurtang, maybe, but somebody you can count on game in and game out. This guy's going to go out there and do it. No, not at all. And that's the killer issue. Your shooting guards
Yeah.
can't shoot. So it's just, I don't know. We'll see. Izzo we trust. I don't know what the team's gonna be like next season. I can't even predict that they're gonna be better than this year. Like you're not gonna get too many bigs that are gonna play like,
Right.
Cooper and Kohler.
Right. To me, I just thought about this, Brian. To me, and again, we love Tom Izzo, but to me, he has a little bit of what's his name in him? Jerry Jones from the Cowboys, in the sense that
Wow. I would never hear no. Mm,
no, just hear me out. Just
that's
hear
not a
me
good
out.
comparison to any means.
No, just
I'm gonna
just hear
mute your
me out,
microphone.
broski. Just just hear me out. I said just a little bit in the sense that this the stubbornness, I think, because Jerry Jones, the Cowboys haven't been to they haven't been to the Super Bowl in like 30 years and counting. I mean, the shit's embarrassing. I mean, there have been teams that have been like bottom of the basement, like the Cardinals, who at least been to the Super Bowl. Dallas had been in the Super Bowl in 30 years. So what I'm saying is, and again, this is just a little bit in just terms of the stubbornness to an extent, just a little bit to the extent that, like I said, MSU hasn't been to the Final Four since 2019. So by the time this next uh, basketball thing comes up, basketball year, we'll be talking 8 years. So again, Izzo we trust. We love Tom Izzo. I mean, he is the gift that keeps on giving for Michigan State fans. He gives us something to cheer for. Since the football program has been basically, shit bubbles just call like it is for a pretty like half a decade and counting. So he definitely gives us something to cheer for. Last year got to the Elite Eight. This year flamed down the Sweet 16. So if you are constantly knocking on the door, but you're not getting there, I mean, again, you have to kind of look in the mirror and say, okay, what do I need to do to keep what I do to win, but how do I tweak that to get over the hump? So I'm just saying from a stubbornness standpoint, just a little bit, I just see a little bit of that comparison between him and like Jerry Jones. Is Tom Izzo like Jerry Jones? Hell no. Nah. I mean, no, he is not like Jerry Jones 100%, maybe like 5% in terms of a little bit of a stubbornness, in terms of how far am I going to go to improve my team to get to the ultimate goal to win a championship? What do I need to do that? If what I've been doing for the past 7 years, 8 years really hasn't been working, and again, I'm not talking about just cashing checks all over the place and going to having those backdoor phone calls and text messages to the top player on the team that made it gets bounced out the tournament or something. you know you know like you said, within the rules, what do I need to do to really improve? So that's all I'm saying.
Sure. uh, no, I can see you saying he's stubborn,
I'm sorry
but
if I was a little wordy
I
there,
just don't
but
like the
I was trying
comparison to
to
Jerry
say.
Jones. I understand what you're saying.
My
It's
throat got dry there for a
like you
minute.
say, we always play the what if game.
Right. What if? What if? What if? If was
Yeah,
a fifth, we'd
I
all
understand your
be
point. It's just
drunk.
be dead drunk, alcohol poisoning, Michigan State. Um, it's just yeah, it's gonna come down to next season. Are they gonna make the moves? And I understand people grow, but there's not a true center on this team right now. In the Big Ten, you need big guys. You need you need the people up front.
Yes.
To battle and get the rebounds. You got to have your bigs. And right now, we know probably could pencil in Cam Ward as a starter. Small forward. I mean, power forward, center position. Jesse McCullough, I don't know. Um, I think he can take over the Kohler position, but he has to get in the weight room and do like Kohler did and get himself able to grab those rebounds and get down there and battle. We know he can shoot
Mm-hmm.
the three, but he needs to do big guy stuff. And will he
Mm-hmm.
grow? I don't know. We will see. Izzo's going to trust him. We know that, and there's nothing wrong with having trust in your guys. But regardless
Right.
if you trust him or not, you're still going to need another center. As I said,
Right.
you cannot rely if you're relying on the true freshman center who depending on what stats you look at, we don't know what his motor is going to be like. There's so many unknowns with that. The Big Ten is, he was big, tough, and rough. You got to get out there and get it. So I don't know if that's something that's reliable. You need to bring in at a minimum a body at center,
Right.
like
Right. A
unless you're going to
big
go
one at that.
small ball and get murdered in the Big Ten, rebounded.
Right. Right.
You know, we don't know. Too many unseens. Even the shooting guy, Josiah Jeffers coming in. I know he's a McDonald's All American, supposed to be big time scorer. Look at his game. The kid can ball, but we don't know how it's going to translate as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
It's different like with Jace. Jace wasn't brought in to be relied upon to be the guy. He's kind of it just developed into that.
Yeah, he
His
grew into
game
that.
spoke so loud that he had to become that guy. You know,
Right.
I can tell you the expectation for Josiah, is to come in and you supposed to be the man at that position.
Mm-hmm.
We gonna need you to come in and score because it's been a weakness. Another thing we got to talk about, you know, Michigan State's defense kind of fell off a complete cliff when Divine got hurt. The analytics, we're not going to get deep into it like you said, but go out and check it out. Other podcasts do a lot better job of that. When Divine gets hurt, those last like 10 games of the regular season, State's
A little
defense was
dicey.
not very good. Because
Yeah, it was a little dicey.
there was a point in the year that State was holding, had only given up 70 points one time until Divine gets hurt. So
Mm-hmm.
is this the new center? Is the new pieces? Are they going to be really that good on defense? Jeremy Fears is a pretty good defender, but he can't guard both guard positions. Last season you had Aiken, you
Right.
had Holloman, you had Jason's a pretty good. You had these wing defenders who just grind down on teams. This season, not so much once Divine goes
Not so
down.
much.
So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot more unknowns. We have to see what this team
Right.
grows into, but you know, Sweet 16, yeah, it's a nice story, but it's not the standard at Michigan State. And we have been at the standard
Right.
for a while now. And I can come on here and I can, I've talked shit a lot about a lot of other schools. And Michigan State's record is their record. We're not living up to our own standard right now, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been a long time. And so it's a weird spot for a Spartan because you're not like down on the team, but you have to acknowledge that you know we haven't been as good as we would like to be.
Right.
And yeah, going on inching up on a decade.
Yeah.
All those records start to fall little by little. There was a point where every senior had made a Final Four playing for Michigan State at the time Izzo.
That's
That
true.
goes down the drain. Then after that goes down the drain, I think since then we've only been to one Final Four because
Yeah,
that was the
I think the last I
AJ
think the
Payne, Keith
last Final
Applin
Four team.
years.
Yeah, I think the last team that went to the Final Four in terms of that every senior year or every senior that went at least once, I think that was the 2015 season when we were the 7th seed and got to the Final Four.
No, before that.
Travis Trice basically
That got broken before
there
that.
weren't that team didn't have any seniors. Travis Trice and maybe
No,
they
I'm talking
didn't.
that record got. No, they weren't. Travis Trice was the senior that season, but I'm talking about prior
Okay.
to that. There was a record of if you're a senior, you go to Final Four. Those
Right.
good. Keith Applin, Gary Harris, Adrian
Yeah.
Payne, Dawson teams. They didn't make a Final Four.
No, that they got to the Elite Eight as their ceiling.
It got put up by Kemba Walker, UConn. See,
Yeah,
UConn
I
again.
remember that.
And then
No, that wasn't Kemba Walker. That was a
Did they
Kemba
make?
Walker. That was I forgot that kid's name.
No,
It wasn't Kemba Walker was
he's
back
an
in
NBA.
yeah, Kemba Walker was way back in the day, bro. I forgot who the
You're right.
star
I can't
point
think of
guard
his
was
name.
on
Yeah,
that team.
light skinned dude. Yeah, just they
Yeah,
got hot and put
because
us out.
Kevin Ollie was the
So
coach of
Brendan
that
Dawson
UConn
ended up
team.
making
They
it,
actually
but
won the right. I think they won the
yes,
title that year too. That UConn team, I think they
they won
won the
championship.
title that year. Kevin Ollie, I think, was the coach
So like
of
it was
UConn that year.
Yeah, so it was the Keith Applin, Adrian Payne. They didn't make the Final Four in their time.
Yeah, they
Brendan
broke that
Dawson makes it
record.
later on.
Right.
2015. Then we
Yeah,
got
that year, that
smoked
next
by
year.
Duke in the
Yeah, that
Final
next
Four.
year. Yeah.
Yes.
But the fact that
and then
and I know we're kind
after
of going
that
off on a
season, we had, I believe
tangent.
it's Middle Tennessee State.
Oh God, yeah. We were a 2 seed and got popped by a 15 seed. Yeah, that was painful. Ooh, God, that was painful. Mm.
Yes, it was.
So
So
overall, we're just making
it's
the
been a
point
long
that
time. Like
as
we
the years, yeah, it has. It's kind of like kind of mirrors a football program in the sense that as since the D'Antonio era, that as you know, it's been that well shit about
postmark
what
D'Antonio, which is called it
right
PMD.
like 15 years. We're talking about a decade and a half, damn near, since those jolly years. So it's kind of getting to that point with Izzo, and that's what I was saying earlier. I mean, what are you really going to do to get over the hump? Within the structure and within your own integrity and all that stuff you've built, what are you willing to do to get over the hump? So that's my only point.
Only Izzo
So
knows.
yeah,
Only Izzo knows.
yeah, yeah. So I know usually that I end, you know, the these podcasts, the Hoops podcast, with a fun hoop fact, but we're going to flip the script a little bit here, broski, because I was on social media last night and earlier today, and saw a lot of hatred. A lot of hatred from that team down the road, from some of those Walmart Wolverine fans. And I have to say that I felt the need to address this. Now, before I get into my super mad Spartan little rant here, I'm going to preface this by saying that there are some cool Michigan fans within that fan base. They're very rational. They're not over the top. They recognize that when their program is bad, they're bad. But for some of these beer belly, Barstool Sports, Walmart Wolverines, who just are bandwagon fans, just bagging on Michigan State because we got bounced out the Switch 16, talking about, Izzo ain't, Mr. March anymore, the whole little brother routine and all of this other accolades, and yeah, Michigan is having a great season by their standards for sure. They're more likely to make it to the Final Four. They even, may make it to the national championship. Shit, they may even win the whole thing. Who knows? But, a lot of these so-called Walmart, Wolverines, and like I said, these bar stool, you know, basement dwelling fans, whatever, they're just loving the fact that Izzo got popped. And they're talking about how the program is done and Izzo ain't shit anymore. Dusty May is the new king of Big Ten hoops and other, of the rivalry. Okay, so I felt the need, and I have my little stats here just to remind everybody, what Michigan State basketball really is, right? So I'm going to read this here. So just to let, all of you, basement dwelling Walmart Wolverine fans know, give you a quick reminder of MSU basketball, the past 20 to 25 years, what we've accomplished. So, number of champion. This is since I'm going back to 1998, okay, when we had the Flintstones. So, we're talking about almost 30 years of MSU basketball since 1998. Michigan State has won one national championship. Michigan has won 0. MSU's been to 8 Final Fours. Michigan has been to 2 with an asterisk of 1. going back to because those Fab 5 years, technically they don't exist anymore from that scandal. So MSU has made 27, maybe I'll say 28 straight NCAA appearances since 98. Michigan's made 14. Big Ten regular season titles, 10 for Michigan State, 3 for Michigan. Big Ten tournament titles, MSU's won 6, Michigan's won 2 with an asterisk. So the reason I bring that up is because for all of you Michigan fans, and again, there are some cool Michigan fans who are pretty level-headed, and they know what's really up, particularly with the basketball program. But all you fans, all you, so-called Michigan fans who are acting like, Michigan has done all of this accomplishment, in the past 20 or 30 years, I don't know where you guys are coming from. You guys barely pay attention to basketball. You're primarily all about the football team and the scandals that they do with Connor Stallions and all that stuff. And you really don't pay attention to basketball until you have a season like this. So I'm not saying all that to say, you guys need to chill out, cool off. Yeah, MSU got popped in the Sweet 16, but don't act like, Izzo is dead. The basketball program is dead. You guys had a better year than us. Okay, get it, fine. But that doesn't equate to 30 years of what MSU basketball has accomplished compared to what you guys have. So I just want to end it like that. Did you have any thoughts on that, Brian?
This reminds me of a old argument I used to have with my Michigan friends. Because it sounds if you reverse the roles, that's how we used to talk during the D'Antonio era. We're good for these decades with D'Antonio. You started breaking down the different decades and segmenting it up. You can flip flop the argument: Michigan football, Michigan State basketball, State. My whole thing is State gotta do better. Michigan's had a good season, and I understand that. Head to head, it's 2-2. We spanked them twice last year. They spanked us twice this year. Michigan is probably going to go next to championship. That's going to suck, but that's what it is. What is State going to do to get to a consistent level of Final Fours, not just being the hey guys, remember Michigan State used to be good and getting Final Fours. Let's be the sexy pick. Like no, let's start getting back there regularly and fuck whatever Michigan got going on. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's the way to end on a good note. But again, I just had to. And I know when people watch this podcast, there'll be some more comments from these beer belly guys here, who didn't go to Michigan. They're just, the hot, sexy pick for them. So, hey, if you want to leave your comments, please do, because we go through the comments and we comment on the comments. We're not scared. If you want to comment on this, fine, do it. But, again, don't sit here and just, shit on Michigan State because we had the lesser year than you guys. I mean, again, Michigan basketball, yeah, they get hot maybe once every 10 years, maybe. So let's not do this comparison of, yeah, we're the new kings and all this stuff here. Yeah, MSU, yeah, they got this 16 that pop. Doesn't mean that they're irrelevant and they're going to just go back down to nothing. So I just wanted to put it out there. So, yes, please comment. We love hearing these comments, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, otherwise, because we comment on the comments, which means you're paying attention to us. So, hey, that's what we want, right? So, there it is. Any final thoughts, broski, before we end this? I know I sound like you.
I hope we can get back to winning
Kind of switch roles there
so we
for a
can't
second.
keep whining.
True.
Let's get back to winning and stop. Let's we can stop whining. How about that? Let's not be the model for next season. Let's start winning and stop whining.
winning over winning over winding. There we go. We're gonna start that hashtag for next basketball season. Winning over whining. There it is. So, all right, broski. Well, we chopped it up enough here. Overall, it was a good season for Michigan State. I mean, I didn't think that they would do what they did this year, considering what we have. So now I guess we're back to football because we have the spring showcase coming up, and going to hear from the Pat signal more and more as time goes on here, rolling into the spring and then the summer, and we'll be back on that track.
Well, hope springs eternal. I want you to look at the overall expected win total for Michigan State football going into next season, and we'll be hoping for
Yeah,
basketball
probably
games pretty
5
soon.
wins. Probably 5
It was three and a
wins.
half.
God damn, 3.5? They expect to be MSU to be that putrid in
Yes, that was
football?
the expected win total.
3.5. So what 3 wins they talking
Yes,
about us getting? The first 2 games, and then lowly. I don't know who
we
lowly.
shall
No, I
see
can't
when
say
they step on the
Rutgers, but
field. We can. We're one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, so we are Rutgers. So there it is. That's the state of Michigan State football at the moment. Hopefully, it isn't in that way.
three and
We
a
shall
half.
see.
So what's the
I
game? We're going to only. So
Yeah,
basically that means we're only going to. So 3.5 games means that the 4th game we're just going to win like the first half. That 4th game, we're just going to win the first half of that game and fuck it up so much that for the second half we're going to lose.
no, it's just the betting. The
Wow.
betting line. Like it's just they don't expect us to win more than 3 games.
Wow. Well, at least say 3. Don't say 3.5. Shit. 3.5.
That's the betting line. That's how it goes. Because that's how you can't say
Yes,
it's
I'm just
over under. You can
saying.
say either you're gonna the betting line. That's why I say half. Yes, that's how it goes. That's how the betting lines
Oh
go, Ken.
boy. Yes, you're right. You're right. My bad. I forgot that quick. I mean, damn. That would be really, and I know, again, tangent point. That'd be really embarrassing, dude. As a first year head coach for Fitzgerald coming in with all this, all this, accolades, and you just got fucking $500 million damn near
Ken,
in
I want you
donations
to.
just to get 3 wins.
You need to go look at the roster. Go look at the roster, and you can see why they're saying that. Let's just put it like that right now, with how just based on the offensive line and defensive line. That's it. That's all we can see how it all shakes out when they hit the field. They have a chance to prove themselves. But yeah, we shall see. I don't know.
Oh boy, man. Well, there it is. One of these days for our podcast, we'll have a winning football program. Well, hell, at least can we get to 500? Oh boy.
We shall
All
see.
right. All right. Well, as always, you guys can follow us on our social media. You know, we're on everything. So please check us out. Even though the basketball season's over, we're still going to hit you guys with some great content here. That's never going to stop. So on that note, I'm Ken, the super cool Spartan, my very entertaining broski, Brian, the super mad Spartan, Q the woodshed, and we are out. Go green.
Oh, all right.